Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of the Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. On this episode, we're going to talk all about Van Halen, giving our top 3 Van Halen albums, our thoughts on the latest announcement from Dave that he's going to be retiring, as well as remembering Eddie a year to the day after his passing. There's a lot to talk about, so let's jump in and let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of the Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. Today I'm excited to have with me my buddy, the chemist, Mr. Vincent LaRussa. How you doing today, buddy?
Doing very well. Thank you for asking me that question.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Is there any other questions I should ask you before we actually jump into the topic of the day?
Make them.
How's the fish doing in the tank over there, by the way?
Fish are doing well. They're resting right now. That's why the light is off. They get about 4 hours of light. 4 to 6 hours is, I think, the recommended amount of light they should get per day.
And how many fish are in that tank?
Just dose.
Okay.
2. I've had only.
Do you plan on cooking one
night.
for dinner tomorrow night?
I don't think we should comment on that because we would have some what do they call those type of groups?
The animal activists or whatever.
Activists. I almost called advocates, but that wasn't
Advocates,
right.
the advocates.
Yeah. None of my fish will be consumed.
Okay. What about Don Knotts? Will he be consumed?
Well, maybe someday if we ever release that song.
And people have like, what the hell are these dopes talking about? Oh man.
Edit that out.
That's all right. Well, we started speaking about doing another one of these episodes, I guess, a couple of weeks ago. And at the time I had mentioned, hey, we should do like our top 3 Van Halen albums. And we felt today was the appropriate time to get together, talk about it, record, because
you're not on vacation.
Because I'm not on vacation. Exactly.
Because every time something happens where I think we should get together, you're always away.
I'm sorry.
Hence part of what this conversation is going to be about.
That's right. I'm sorry. I'm actually living a life now, but
And so it's just envy, actually.
That's right. That's right.
I'm just upset it's not me.
That's right, and rightfully so. But, you like little digs, eh?
Yeah, that's good. Deserved.
Yeah. So we figured today was a good time to get together. Not because I'm not on vacation, although that obviously helps, but it's also today's the 1-year anniversary of the passing of Eddie Van Halen. So it was kind of like we thought it was a perfect opportunity to do this, record this, talk about Van Halen, talk about the different eras. But then also last Friday, people were hit with the news that David Lee Roth plans to retire after these next 5 shows. So why don't we start there and talk about that first, right? Before we jump into our top 3 Van Halen albums. You texted me while I was on vacation. I ignored the text for probably half a day. My apologies, my friend. Then you roasted me for taking too long to respond. So
then we won't mention what you roasted me about.
That's right, Mandalorian. What was your reaction though when you first read that David Lee Roth was going to retire?
I mean, I think it was kind of a little bit on the heels of over a month ago with Gene Simmons making some comments about Dave. Not that I thought it had anything to do with it, but I just found it interesting with the timing. We saw him what was it, 2000?
February of 2020.
2020. So it wasn't that long ago.
A year and a half ago.
And I think one of the things that we took away from that performance was we were like, wow, we were actually pleasantly surprised on how good the show was and how good Dave sounded. And I felt like Dave really stuck to, because Dave has been notorious of just like singing songs like just totally off the cuff. And I've heard a lot of people say like live as a singer, you know, he was just like all over the map, you know, not singing the song. Like you want to sing along, and this guy's just like just totally like
Right.
improvising. It
Hmm.
could be quite annoying, in my opinion. You know what I mean? But we found that night like he was pretty close to the record, and it was the best we had heard him sound. The hell was that?
I have no idea.
Is something about to come down on your head?
Apparently
It's
so.
stealing
I
us
think so. Oh
out.
man. Oh man, that was interesting. Hopefully somebody didn't just kill over upstairs.
That's pleasant.
Oh man. Anyway. Oh, that's great.
Anyways, whew. Okay. So anyway, so what was my reaction to it? Yeah, I was a bit surprised. I'm not even sure. Do we know how old Dave is?
You have the computer right over there. You
Yeah, I
can
got
look
it.
that
Yeah,
up, but I think he's in his mid 60s, 64, 65, but
66.
66, yeah, something. All right.
66.
Right, so
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, but you know, the thing that surprised me when I finally got around to reading it is it was a little vague in the sense that he seemed like he was almost alluding to the fact that he's sick or ill. Now, maybe I'm reading into it a little bit, but do you have the
Well,
comments that he made over there?
I got a couple here. So
Okay.
one, he said, "I'm throwing in the shoes. I'm retiring.
Hmm.
This is the first and only official announcement." He told the news, you know, they got the news, they could share it with the world. Now I saw another comment about something. I think it was commented about him saying something like "Stay frosty" or something was like one of his like
Right.
last words or something like
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not going to
But hold
explain
on,
this.
before you even read
Okay.
the next one, to me, right off the top, this is the only announcement. It's like he doesn't want to talk about it.
Well,
To
that's
me,
what I was just, yeah.
right. So now
He
I'll
said,
go to the next one.
yeah, I'm not going to explain the statement. The
Mhm.
explanation is the statement. These are my last 5 shows.
Which are all in
I
Vegas. And
Right. I ask that you bear with me here. Please try not to interrupt. I'm going to close my eyes and take you on for a ride. Roth had then he said he had just spoken to Alex Van Halen, his friend for 50 years. Al and I have been talking, and I can't speak for him just yet, but he knows what I'm about to say. We speak to each other constantly, 2 or 3 times a day. We laugh like pirates. Roth also mentioned that he'd been thinking about the departure of my beloved classmate recently, a clear reference to guitar god Eddie Van Halen. I am encouraged and compelled to really come to grips with how short time is, and my time is probably even shorter.
right. That when I read that, I'm like, ouch. Now, obviously, we're all getting up in age. He could be just
Yeah,
referring to that, but continue.
I thought I might have been the first, frankly. I might have thought the Marlboro Run would have got me. Hey, Ed objects in the rearview mirror are, wait, hey, Ed objects in the rearview mirror are probably me. Roth aloud, and my doctors, my handlers, compelled me to really address that every time I go on stage, I endanger that future. I know that when I am in the audience, whether you come out with a ukulele or a marching band, all I ask you give me everything you've got to give, he said. That's what I did for the last 50 years. You know,
To me,
so
when I read the comments and I hear the comments about the rearview mirror, hey Ed, I'm not so far away, or whatever, something like that. That's where I was just like, oh, you know, to me, this just alludes to the fact that he does not, that something's wrong physically. Now it's pure speculation, right? I have no freaking clue. Dave's always been a character, so Dave says things, and sometimes you don't even know what he means by it. But when I read that, I'm like, boy, this seems pretty sudden. He had just announced these Vegas shows. He's doing 5 shows there, and then all of a sudden, these are the final 5 shows. It just, yeah, I
well,
don't
you
know.
know, the thing is, like, even if somebody's getting up in age and just making a blanket statement like,
Yep.
well, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be alive. Let's say they're
Right.
not even sick. But when he says, and my doctors, my handlers compelled me to really address that every time I go on stage, I endanger that future.
Yep.
Now, and I don't think he's talking about a lighting rig falling on his head, you
No, I
know,
don't
by,
think
you
so
know, an act
either.
of God, you know, there's
My house,
something
that might
about,
happen, but I don't
yeah,
think.
your ceiling's about to collapse in on your
That's
head.
right. Exactly.
However, yeah, so, man, you know, yeah, you know, obviously he doesn't want to go into the detail of what it is,
Mhm.
and nor does he need to, and it's personal, like it is for anybody.
And you know what? Eddie handled things the same way, right? There's all these rumors about him being sick, but there was never any public acknowledgement of it until he had passed. So I just wonder if Dave's going down that same road.
And I don't know what's actually, harder, sadder, when you find the sudden news of somebody to passing, or somebody's announcing that they're no longer going to be here, and you're just waiting and anticipating.
Right. Now, I mean, just to be clear,
like
he did not say he's passing, and it's not at all. He might live longer than both of us combined.
Yeah. So we don't know that. So yeah, we don't want to. We're not obviously wishing any ill will on anybody, or but to the point of what I was trying to say is like, it's like the Band-Aid rip-off effect. It hurts to just go. You got that initial thing, but if you slowly rip that Band-Aid off, it's always like worse.
Yep, agreed.
But again, one thing I will say, and also in response to your question, is I'm glad that we got to see him last year with Kiss. I'm glad I got to see him with you with that first David Lee Roth tour when he did Eat 'Em Smile. That was an awesome show.
Agreed.
We've spoken about that on some other podcasts.
Yep.
And yeah, man, he's one of the pioneers. And some people have actually, I forgot who quoted and said, one of the front man, I think it might have been maybe it was Michael Sweet from Stryper or someone, I forget who it was.
I saw
who said,
Michael Sweet's made a comment. Yep, go ahead.
Like before David Lee Roth basically pioneered what a real front man is. That's highly debatable. You can go Plant, Jagger,
right?
You go Morrison, even back from the 60s, Elvis, for God's sakes, what I mean? But for the style, I think maybe for that 80s hair metal, even though they, late 70s, but I'm talking about when metal really got popular in the 80s. You'd think about, the top frontmen of that time. How could David Lee Roth not be, to me, and I'm just thinking off the cuff, top 5? I mean, from not only performance in singing these songs, but the acrobatic legs up in the air like this, and whatever all the other things we used to bring swords on stage. I mean, like things you just never. When I see those pictures where he's up in the air with his legs like that, even in my best years, in my best years, that would never happen.
Exactly.
It makes the Pete Townsend windmill look like amateur hour. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
Or Roger Daltrey swinging the microphone. I mean, nothing against those guys and those
not at all, not in
trademarks. But when you watched it and the leg kicks up in the air, where his leg is up here above his head, obviously this guy was in tremendous shape to be able to do that.
And I'll say this, love him or hate him. And when we start to talk about the top 3 albums, which I don't want to do just yet, but when we start talking about the top 3 albums, I'll give my opinion of Dave versus Sammy. But love Dave or hate Dave, there's been nobody like him in terms of a front man, at least in that music, in that genre, and what he's given to rock. It's kind of sad to me that these are going to be his last 5 shows. But I'll say this, one of the things that I also picked up in that is that he's talking to Alex, he said, multiple times a day. Right. Not even like, I'm talking to him once a week, or I talk to him every once in a while. I'm talking to him multiple times a day. So to me, that was like a little exciting to hear as well.
Yeah, because we also know that, over the years, whether it's the Van Halen camp and and Sammy or Dave, that there's always been some sort of, strained relationship there. We know that there was a lot of history with Dave and the Van Halen boys.
Yep.
Even Michael Anthony with the Van Halen guys, the band has had a lot of, drama, if you want to say, or personnel and stuff,
Yep, absolutely.
And listen, yeah, you're right. It's nice to hear that. I'm sure even if Alex had some things against Dave with his brother passing, let bygones be bygones. I'm purely speculating, but everybody becomes more reflective as they get older, and then especially when people pass. And let's not waste time. You and I talk about this all the time. You want to make kind of every day count, and the things that used to be important to you and not so important, and things that you gave up, you're trying to get back. A guitar mirror, you know what I mean? So, you know what I mean?
Well, I want to talk about that guitar later on, but let me ask you this. What was so the fact that they're talking, do you think it's possible? Because I've read rumors that Alex might show up and play at some of those shows with Dave in Vegas. Do you think he's going to do that?
I think the fact that they're talking multiple times a day. Listen, I think it'd be wonderful to see that happen for
Hmm.
Alex, who, as far as I know, ever since Eddie's passing, hasn't really played with anybody.
Yep.
I mean, there's a
I don't
guy
even know
who's
if he's made any public statements, Alex, since
yeah,
Eddie's passing.
exactly. I mean,
Hmm.
talk about a blow. You lose your brother, and
Yep.
your whole musical life just, you know. And I'm sure it's a type of thing that, if Wolfie said, "Hey, Alex, I'd love for you to be my drummer," a good chance that that would happen
Right.
because the relationship and the legacy of that's Eddie's son, and that would even be nice to see.
Hmm.
No disrespect, whoever Wolfie has playing drums, who I don't even know
Sure.
who that is, quite
No, me
honest.
neither.
But
Me neither.
yeah, I think there's a really good chance of that happening
Hmm.
based on these statements.
Yeah.
So
Once he announced this, I was like, would I fly out to Vegas to see
yes, you
one of
would.
those shows? So I will say, I
Yeah.
mean, they're all sold out. I've looked on StubHub.
Mm.
They're expensive, but not as egregious as one would think. So I've kind of gone back and forth with it a little bit. January's tough weather, flying out of New York. You never know what you're going to get. But yeah, I got a little bit of time to figure that one out for sure.
Well, life is like a box of chocolates.
That's right. That is true.
You
Forest.
never know what you can get. Yeah.
Oh man. So yeah, I guess more will come of that story in the weeks and months ahead. But I did think, kind of going back to the start where you mentioned the whole Gene Simmons thing, I did wonder if this played a part in why he wasn't on the Kiss tour anymore, opening up, because he knew he was going to be retiring. He just couldn't announce it. So he came off the tour. He's doing these 5 shows. He knew that would be it. I wonder if this whole thing was known when that story was breaking a few weeks ago, a few months ago, whatever it
Well,
was.
it makes Gene's comments more asinine
Of
if it
course,
was known.
absolutely. Well, I
And I
sure
know
hope Gene didn't know. If Gene knew and made those comments,
I highly doubt that's the
I
case. As
highly
much as
doubt
we
it
want to
also.
beat Gene up about what acid mouth, acid foot, whatever he
Hmm.
said,
Yep,
diarrhea of the mouth, whatever his quote
exactly.
was.
Yep, yep.
I don't think Gene would be that insensitive.
Agreed. Agreed. So, keeping with the Van Halen theme then, and what we wanted
Mm.
to do with our top 3 albums, before we even get into the top 3 albums, there's always the debate, Dave versus Sammy, right? And I'll take Gary out of the equation because he was there one album. I don't think anybody equates Gary up. No disrespect to Gary, great singer, great performer, maybe not
Hmm.
100% the right guy for Van Halen, but where do you stand on the whole Dave versus Sammy debate?
I mean, it's almost like two different entities to me. I don't like to really compare the two. I know a lot of people do, my thing has always been there's never going to be anything like the original Van Halen. I don't care how much better this album was, maybe that was Sammy was on, or how much better this song may be that Sammy wrote or co-wrote,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. The original is the original.
Mm-hmm.
Plain and simple. There's not very many cases, other than maybe something like Rush, where a member comes in, replaces somebody, and the other guy has been forgotten, pretty much. I
Mm-hmm.
hate to say it, no
Right.
disrespect to, I forget the original drummer's name, Rush. That's a total, like, kind of rare kind of circumstance.
Right.
But I will say this: I thoroughly enjoyed both entities of Van Halen,
Mm-hmm.
and as you will come to find out when we do our 3 album, top 3 or whatever, favorite
Mm-hmm.
3
Mm-hmm.
Van Halen albums, I just think that you know they picked the perfect guy probably at the time. That's okay. Hindsight 50/50. If they would have
Mm-hmm.
gotten the guy from Loverboy and he would have hit it out, not that he was ever, I'm just throwing, I don't know why I
Well,
thought
I
of
think I
Loverboy.
think everybody was under consideration to replace David Lee
Right,
Roth, Patty Smythe, Daryl Hall. I got a video
right,
online of Daryl Hall saying that he was considered. I cannot ever imagine that. Imagine Daryl
right.
Hall singing in Van Halen. It just great singer, totally wrong guy for the band.
Yeah, I mean, but then again, now you look, without it happening, you would never really know.
Of
It's
course.
really, it's hard to say. But yes, you could see how Hagar with his range, with his music, Can't Drive 55s and Only One Way to Rock and all this
Mm-hmm.
other great stuff he did with Montrose. You could see how that was like just a natural, fit for Van Halen.
Agreed.
Very, very
Were
different
you into
singer though.
Sammy Hagar at all before he joined Van Halen?
No,
You didn't
not
have
at
the
all.
VOA album or anything else?
No.
No, interesting. Yeah, you see, I was into. So I got into Van Halen
I mean, I
first.
knew I can't drive 55. Obviously, was a popular
Of course,
song.
everybody knew
I
that.
knew
Yeah,
of him, you know what
right.
I mean, but didn't own any of his records.
Right. No, you see, I got into Van Halen first, but right around the same time, I also got into that VOA album of Sammy's. I loved Two Sides of Love. Of course, I Can't Drive 55, but I had seen him on a TV show. I think it was called The Rock Palace. And I recorded it. It was like 12:30 at night in New York here. I recorded because Ozzy was on and I wanted to see Ozzy. And that's where I got introduced to Rat. Ooh, beverage. That's where I got introduced to Rat on that show. And that's the first time I saw Sammy Hagar. And on that show, he did the song Red and There's Only One Way to Rock. And I was like, oh, these songs are great. So I became a Sammy fan, but I was definitely more of a Van Halen fan during that time. No doubt about it. When 1984 came out, which was, I'll say, sadly, my introduction to Van Halen, I was all in. I bought the back albums. I loved those Van Halen albums. And it's just going to be important because I probably lean a little bit more towards Sammy than Dave. So I think it's good for me to share some of that backstory here. But definitely around 84, I started buying all those old Van Halen albums and was big on Van Halen. Although one of the things I liked about Van Halen and why I don't feel they're 100% different bands is 84, that album was much different than those earlier albums. And when I first bought 84 and it had the keyboards on it and Jump and the whole intro with the keyboards and I'll Wait, when I went back and bought those older albums, I was surprised that they were more rock albums and not, some more pop type stuff and keyboard. And yes, there's stuff like Dance the Night Away and whatever, but I think Van Halen would have progressed that way even with Dave in the band because they were starting to in 1984.
Well, music was progressing that way. You got to remember,
Agreed.
This was the MTV era. The synthesizers and stuff that existed on those 80s records didn't exist in the 70s, although there were synthesizers. And you and I have talked in the past how I think technology really, and I would love to do like a whole discussion on that, I have a lot of knowledge on how technology, whether it's, Fender amp, Fender bass guitar, Marshall stack, box amp, whatever kind of guitar, how songs were written because of those particular instruments or those particular amplifiers or keyboards. So I think it was a natural progression with the MTV era, and it was an exciting time of change. And yeah, I agree with you. Van Halen was going in that direction. However, vocally, Van Halen could have said, let's try to find a guy who sounds like Dave.
Right.
Now, obviously, if you're looking at Patti Smythe and Daryl Hall and you selected Sammy Hagar, that wasn't their, that wasn't their, what they were looking for. They weren't targeting that way, And wasn't there even the rumor, or I don't know if it's ever been confirmed, that Eddie reached out to Kiss at one point in time when there was something with Ace Frehley?
Gene Simmons has said in the past that he wanted Eddie to join Kiss around the Creatures of the Night time period when Ace was leaving. They've pretty much said that's not true. They were talking, they were friendly, but there was never any serious talk about it.
To me, Eddie was way too creative to be in a band like Kiss, where you had, guys like Gene and Paul, running the show, even if they were at the time bringing in a Vinnie Vincent. Yeah. You never know. When somebody's unhappy, and we know that Eddie went through a period where he was really, really unhappy with the band, or maybe more so with Dave, but one never knows.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's not here to even ask him that, and I don't know if the question's really out there that's ever been raised to him about it.
No, it's another one. I have a video online of Paul Stanley addressing this, and he kind of pretty much shoots it down. It seems like it's more just Gene talk more than anything, really.
Yeah, but we've also learned in the past, don't always trust everything that Paul or Gene says. So.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. 100%. I agree. Yeah. But like you said, I can never in any scenario imagine Eddie Van Halen in 1982, 1983 joining Kiss. It's not the right fit. It's ego-wise between all of them. It's too many egos in one band. Nothing about that seems like the right thing to me.
Yeah.
So I'm glad it didn't happen. But
yeah.
So all right. So obviously I'm saying I love both eras. I think we both love both eras. I lean a little bit more Sammy. Maybe you lean a little bit more Dave. I'll even point out over here, if you look over my shoulder, right over there, Sammy Hagar poster, right, which is related to. So the one that says "Go there once, be there twice," right over my shoulder.
Oh, okay.
Right. So that's Sammy Hagar, and the "Go there once, be there twice." Yeah, "Go there once, be there twice" is one of the lyrics from the song Cabo Wabo. So every podcast I do, Sammy Hagar's over my shoulder with the Cabo Wabo poster.
I thought that was a Disney reference.
No, there's not. That is Sammy Hagar leaning up against the wall. Now, it could have been a Disney reference.
I never knew that,
Really?
I never knew that. All the times I've always seen that poster, I never thought to even ask.
That's funny. Yep. That's a
Is he wearing sandals? Is he wearing sandals in that picture?
Yes, he is. He's wearing sandals.
With socks or
no
without
socks? No socks. He's wearing sandals. It is signed by Sammy. It's like I
Okay.
said, the lyrics. Those are the lyrics from the song Cabo Wabo. So why don't we jump in? Well, before
Oh,
we
I see
jump
what you
in.
did there.
Oh yeah. But before we
Uh,
jump in, you
yes.
mentioned something before about a guitar. So let's talk about that for a moment, right? So last night I was driving to see Dave Grohl, and we were talking about stuff from our childhood, and I was talking about things I'm trying to get back, my original stuff that I had. And I said to you, what's one thing you've sold in your lifetime that you wish you could have back that you didn't sell? And I was very surprised with your answer because I never knew this. So do you mind sharing that story?
Yeah. So in the early '90s, well, everyone knows. Well, I should say everyone. I shouldn't assume. But in the '80s, he had a relationship with Kramer. And if you remember when we were in the rock mags back then, you would see ads for him with the Kramer guitars.
Yep.
Then into the '90s, he started getting a relationship with Music Man guitars, and they had a Music Man Eddie Van Halen model. After that, whatever that reason why, he moved over to Peavey, and Peavey had a Wolfgang model. And I was lucky enough to get one of these in around 2001 or 2000. This is when eBay was just starting to really kind of get somewhat popular. But back then people didn't know really what they had or what the value was. There was no YouTube back then. There wasn't a lot of people sharing a lot of information.
Sure.
So I picked up a PV Wolfgang, beautiful flame tobacco sunburst guitar. I don't even know what they were costing at the time, but they probably were costing, let's just say, about $1,300 to $1,500. I'm going to speculate. So I got it for about $850 from a porn shop. Porn, not porn. Porn. Okay. And
thanks for that clarification.
Yeah, the guitar was like pretty much dead mint. It did have a scratch on the top, I think, in the black of the guitar. And you know me, I'm like Felix Unger. Everything's got to be mint.
Yep.
I got this unfortunate disease from father. So everything's got to be. So it always bothered me that this guitar had this scratch in it, and I was always of the mindset, like yourself, I'll just find a better one someday. So at some point, I sold it off for profit. I think I got about $1,200.
But just for clarification, not the Prophet album.
Not the Prophet album.
Okay.
People have no idea what you're talking about.
No, not at all.
A great
very good album
80s
though, for
band.
anybody who wants to look it up. Very, very good album.
Yeah. Yes.
Go ahead. So you sold it for a profit.
I sold it for a profit, and it was about 20 years ago. And I've thought about it often. And then when Eddie passed, and I would always casually look for it. And I think I had the opportunity sometime last year before he passed. I saw one on eBay for maybe $1,400 or $1,500. But my polluted mindset is always like, well, I want to pay what I actually sold it for, because then I don't feel like I lost out on anything.
Forget the fact that it's 20 years later.
Right, exactly. It's just stupid.
Right.
So now, of course, Eddie's passed. So what do you think the value of that guitar has gone up?
It's probably at least double the triples, right?
I see them, for that particular one color. I see them on eBay, Revert 4,500, 5,000, 6,000. So not only is it the fact that, I love that guitar, but now that I know that it's like triple, quadrupled in value, makes it even more painful to have sold the guitar. So last night I was looking on eBay. I'm sorry, on my old mail, and I found out who I sold it to. By the way, you don't know the update. I sent an email to that address. I got it undeliverable back, So remember, this is 20 years ago. People are on Gmail, Yahoo Mail, I found the eBay's, the user's name. Doesn't exist anymore. I saw part of the first name, actually just their first initial, but last name and where they lived. And I got what looked to see maybe like a sister or a wife, don't know, but the odds are of getting this thing back and like, hey, I know I sold you this guitar 20 years ago. Would you want to sell it back to me? And the guy's like, let me think about that. Eddie Van Halen passed away. Yeah, the guitar is probably worth, let me look what that's worth now. If he's not, but you figure you try.
You're certainly not getting it for the price you sold it for anymore.
Never. And you know what? If I saw one now and it was like, in the condition I want, and I'm saying $2,000, and it's probably not going to find that, but I would like that. I wouldn't even think about it, just because of what it is. However, if you look on my wall in back of me,
yes,
that is actually they sell these Kramer guitars,
Okay.
and that's in the style. If you know, I could actually grab it. This is the style of guitar that Eddie played, as you could see from the famous, you know, 80s style headstocks that
Right.
were very
Right. Yeah.
popular of the day. This is called the Beretta Special. So this has become like a little project of mine. So what I've done, these guitars literally cost $179. Anybody could buy these guitars.
Mm-hmm.
And you could do any sort of YouTube videos and people say bang for the buck. They're a great project guitar. So what I've done is like I've taken out the pickup and to what the style of pickup that 80s metal and guys like Eddie would use. It's a Seymour Duncan JB pickup, $80 upgrade. Not expensive if you have any sort of soldering skills. It's pretty easy to do. I've upgraded tuners, say for like, you know, the locking tuners for about $50. And I put a Floyd Rose, which is not the style where it's a locking nut type of thing, but it is a Floyd Rose, which is an upgrade. These go for about $250. And I think I bought it on Amazon as a return item for about $130. Also, so $179, and I made this guitar worth like a $500 guitar, but just with some simple upgrades. And this is like, as you've known recently, I've done some recordings for a client doing some Kiss stuff, and I basically have used this guitar for everything because I just love the neck and the feel of this thing. It's got a great weight, and even a friend of mine who I play with in the band who loves Eddie, he came and played like, wow, this thing is unbelievable. So my point being, people, you know, you could go out and you could spend $2,000. I know we have some mutual friends who spend good money on guitars and never say anything because they have some nice stuff. But you could do these nice little projects for yourself if you want something kind of like what these guys played in the 80s or a guy like Eddie played, and you know, for relatively low cost.
Right.
If anybody has any questions about it, put it in the comments. I'll be more than happy to answer.
There you go.
About
that is some good. So we both learned some stuff today about the items that hang behind us every time we do these podcasts. You didn't know about my Sammy poster, and I didn't know about your guitar behind you.
Well, I will admit for this podcast I did that was product.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I did move that. Well, normally I'll put like an album or something we're talking about, you know, Van Halen. But I'm like, you know what? I think you're going to mention about the Van Halen guitar, so this will make me feel better, and it's like kind of homemade in ways, you know.
So you're saying I'm not predictable? You know me that well, huh?
I know you pretty damn well.
Okay.
You will surprise me every once in a while, you know.
So then, seeing how you know me damn well, let's get into our top 3 Van Halen albums, and let's see just how well you know me. But you go first, my friend. You start off with what your top 3 Van Halen albums are.
This is relatively easy for me. And, you know, let me just say right on the onset, that doesn't mean that an album that I don't mention isn't possibly something that I like better. It's hard. It's so hard. But I have a good reason why I'm picking these 3 records. That's all I could say.
Okay.
Because sometimes when you look at an album, whether it's a Kiss record or Van Halen album, there might be 2 or 3 really, really strong songs, which are like incredible. And then the rest, you're like, okay, those are, you know, okay, maybe not. But it doesn't weigh enough, you know. But that's why I feel like these 3 are easy for me.
Okay.
I'm going to start with, of course, the first album.
But now, are you going from 3 to 1? Are you going 1 to 3? Or
so
are you just putting them in random order?
If you want my ranking, I'll go. So then I'll start from 1 to 3 then, because I already said the first album, so I've already.
So hopefully it's not Van Halen 1, Van Halen 2, Van Halen 3.
Yeah. No. So. You know, we've spoke, and we reviewed the first Van Halen album. You could put the link in that below.
Yeah.
And again, you know, to me, nothing. It's just like I debated you with the first Kiss album. To me, nothing is ever going to top the first Van Halen album as far as anything in their collection. Okay. You know, just looking at the list again here, I mean, it's just one, you know, killer track after another, and just you have to put yourself in the time frame of like, oh, this band Van Halen, what do they sound like? You put on Running with the Devil, you're like, man, this is pretty damn good. And then Eruption starts, you're like, what in God's green earth is going on right now? Like, I've never heard it. So, and then you go to Really Got Me, an unbelievable cover, Ain't Talking About Love. I mean, one of the most covered classic, you know, heavy metal songs of all time. You know, it might even make a top 20 list. I don't even know, you know?
Right.
And then just one after another. It's just a great album, and it's the original. So I'm always going to, for me, start there.
Yep. Yeah.
Number two.
Go ahead.
Okay,
Number two.
no,
No, I was going to say
I want you to
the
ask
only,
me.
yeah, no, the only thing I remember when we spoke about that, the only dud to me on that album, and you like it, and I think a lot of fans like it as well, is Little Dreamer. Just to
Very
me, that
underrated song.
song just never goes anywhere to me. But it's tough to argue with everything you're saying about that album. It's just such a
I'll,
classic, and like you said, it's such a classic. And you go to '77 when that came out, it's just mind-boggling.
you, you know, the thing what I love about Little Dreamer, I love the opening riff. I love the feel of it. And I just love, again, David Lee Roth is a total original in approach and vocals.
Mhm.
Whether he's singing Ain't Talking About Love, whether he's singing Jump, whether he's singing Just the Gigolo, or he's singing, you know, California Girls. Obviously, those were
Mhm.
covers.
Right.
But
Mhm.
it made it Dave. He made those
Agreed.
songs, you know, with his personality. When you
Agreed.
heard the guy singing on the record and you saw him, and you remember Dave on an interview, it was like, can this guy be serious
Yes.
for more?
Yes.
But if you ever go back, I think there's a bunch of, I think he did a podcast with like Joe Rogan. He is
Mhm.
a highly intelligent individual.
Yes. Mhm.
And when you get him to be serious and just talk,
Mhm.
you see that like, yeah, this guy may have ADHD. He may have all kinds of different
Who
things, you
knows,
know,
right? Mhm.
but you know, he is a brilliant man. And you just read his lyrics. If he was the lyricist of all these songs,
Mhm.
just read the damn lyrics, you
Yep.
know,
Agreed.
again, you know.
Agreed.
So,
Agreed. So,
um,
so let's go to your number two selection then.
so my number two is going to be Van Halen, 1984, and again for kind of the same reasons. Like you're talking about a record that in a ways transformed Van Halen, and Jump is still, arguably for me, maybe top 10 of my favorite songs of all time.
I
I
don't
can
know.
still listen to that song
Hmm.
and that opening keyboard. And I think I talked about it before. I've watched back in the 80s that video. I would literally wait and hope that I would see that video. I just love just the whole attitude of that video,
Mhm.
whether it's Eddie smiling or that
Yes.
part at the end where they're doing that thing
Uh-huh.
with the, you know, which
Uh-huh.
never still don't know what the hell that is,
No,
but that is
but it looked
just,
cool.
it looked cool and it was
Mhm.
something I wanted to do, you
Yeah.
know. So
I got to
and
mention
just
one other thing about that video, if
yeah,
you don't mind. I'm going to cut you from out.
yeah,
I was always mesmerized by the fact that in the video, coming out of the whole keyboard solo and guitar solo, when it starts up again, like dun, dun,
yeah,
dun, that Dave had that extra scream in the video, like
yeah,
wow! I was like,
yeah,
I never understood what that was. Was that the original recording? They took it off the album. Did they
yeah,
just put that in for the video? I've never heard anything definitive about it, but there was
yeah,
something about it that was always just like cool to me in the video. I don't know why, but you were
hmm,
talking about the video, and I was like, that thought just
yeah,
instantly came to my mind again.
yeah, yeah. You know, and then, you know, when I look at the songs on there, you know, there are the sub songs on there that, you know, obviously not as strong as a Panama or Jump or
Mhm.
Hot for Teacher, but I mean, any record that has Jump, Panama, and Hot for Teacher, I mean, you know, and on any record, it's just incredible to me. And then, you know, there's other great tunes on like Top Jimmy and
Mhm.
Drop Dead Legs. I like a lot. I'll Wait. You know, it's kind of like, you
You
know,
just like it
it's
because
not really
Michael McDonald helped write it.
as we come to find out
That's
years
right.
later.
That's
You know,
right.
yeah, I just think it's just an incredibly, the sonics on the
Mhm.
album are unbelievable. You know, there's just so much I love about that record, and of course, it's just a great reminder of my childhood and that memory
Mhm.
of like being a part of the beginning of that video. Because remember, for us growing up in Brooklyn, we didn't have MTV. We had Friday night videos,
Yep.
and we maybe had one other show I forgot back in the day. You Saturday morning, maybe there'd be a special on, you know, some sort of videos and stuff
Yep.
like that.
Mhm.
You'd hope to
We
see
had
some videos.
U68 also at some point.
Yeah, U68, right?
Mhm.
But I think that was a little bit later
Yeah, it
in
was.
the
Mhm.
80s.
Yeah, probably.
Um,
You didn't mention House of Pain though, and to me, that's like I happen to
mhm,
like House of Pain even more than Hot for Teacher. I like Top
mhm,
Jimmy more than Hot for Teacher. I'm not a huge fan of Hot for Teacher personally,
yeah,
but yeah, House of Pain to me, I love that song. I think it's a great song. That actually goes back to the original demos that they had recorded in '77. So that was an older song
hmm,
they kind of brought back. But
hmm,
that, like I said before, that '84 was my introduction to Van Halen because at that time I was just 13 years old. Jump was my introduction to Van Halen. I just did my top 20 Van Halen songs on my Facebook page. I was counting that down the last 20 days. And both Panama and Jump made, in my top 15. And those songs to me will always have a special place because that was my introduction to Van Halen.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I think the first two for me are very easy choices.
Okay, yep.
Yeah.
So what was your third choice then?
So my third choice being, and again, I there's so much about Van Halen 2 and Women and Children First. And
I thought you were going to go 5150.
Well, no, but yes, I actually am going to go 5150.
Oh, are you? Okay. I'm sorry.
Yes,
so
yes.
go ahead. But
Yeah,
I cut
so,
you off. I was making the signs 515.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was
And then
wondering
you
what
started
was going
talking
on
Van Halen too. I'm like, oh, I'm wrong.
there. No, whatever, because again, this is going to be a highly debatable thing, maybe by people of the pure, Eddie. I'm sorry, Dave, era, and people who don't like Sammy. But to me, for a band to come back with a new singer, not an unknown, obviously, he had success, and I don't know. To me, the first track on that record, I'm trying to bring it up. Is it Why Can't
Good
This
enough.
Be Love? Or no?
No, good enough is the first
Then
one.
then yeah, and then it's Why Can't This Be Love, right?
Yep.
I mean, again, Why Can't This Be Love is one of my favorite songs of all time. There's just something again about that tune. When you hear it, just magic.
Yep.
And I'll never forget when I first got the record, because I got it when it first came out, and I went to my buddy's house. And we were listening to it, and it wasn't your house. It was actually another. I actually had two buddies.
Wow.
Yeah, but yeah, there's a lot about sonics about that record that I can't stomach, like the electronic synthesized drums
Yep.
on the toms, But again, to come back with a new singer and have a lot of great tunes on that record, to me, that's why easily is my third favorite Van Halen record.
Yeah, I had a feeling you would say that. And we've spoke about in the past 5150 versus Eat 'em and Smile, and which do we like better? To me, as a Van Halen fan at the time, I remember having just got into Van Halen in '84 and identifying the old back catalog and then really liking those songs. When it was announced that Dave was leaving, I was like, oh, damn, this sucks. I was finally into this new band and now they're splitting up or whatever. But Dave came back with a great album. Van Halen came back with a great album with Sammy. And I felt like at the time as a fan it was a win-win. Like, I ended up with two great bands now that I loved. And, it was really, to me, a cool time to be a fan of Van Halen, of David Lee Roth, because both albums to me totally kicked ass, is the best way for me to say it. So, so I'm not surprised because we were both into that 5150 album. And when I did my top 20 Van Halen songs, actually, I don't know if you saw, but Why Can't This Be Love was my number one Van Halen song.
Yeah.
Because
and,
I just go ahead.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I remember where I was when I first heard that song. And like you just said, that just coming back, new singer, first single, so strong. It's hooky, it's catchy. Everything about the song is perfect, other than it doesn't have an Eddie Van Halen guitar solo in it. But otherwise, it's just really a perfect, and it's to me a perfect continuation of what they were doing in 1984 with that album, and some of the synthesizers and keyboards. It felt natural to me, and so it's just an incredible song to me.
Absolutely, and just very quickly, and just right off the cuff, thinking about 5150 and Eat 'em and Smile. I mean, if you take the two big heavyweights off that record, Why Can't This Be Love and say Yankee Rose, right? I don't know if you would say something else as maybe the best song off that record.
No, I think those are the two you have to go with.
Right. I just think, you throw them in the ring. I think Why Can't This Be Love comes out as the winner there. I think Yankee Rose is still a great tune. But I have to just, without even really listening and going back and thinking, I've heard those songs a zillion times, but
I think you're right, but I put Yankee Rose up against probably 6 other songs on 5150 and go with Yankee Rose. So it's not like I think Yankee Rose is not a great song.
Now I guess I know. I guess 5150 won't be in your top 3.
Well, I just said no, don't.
Because you said 6 other songs. I'm like, there's 9 songs on the record. So what does it mean? You like 3?
Well, my point is that I think Yankee Rose is that strong of a song. So as much as I would say I agree with you 100%, Why Can't This Be Love? I give the nod over Yankee Rose. That's not because Yankee Rose isn't good. It's just that they're both great. You have to choose one, and I'd go with Why Can't This Be Love?
Yeah.
So interesting. You were going to say something about Van Halen 2 before? And I cut
No,
you
no,
off.
no. What I was gonna say is that it's hard because you look at those other records like Van Halen 2, and you look at Got Dance the Night Away. It's got Spanish Fly. Beautiful Girls. I mean, there's a
Yep.
lot of great stuff on there.
Yep.
And even Fair Warning and Women and Children First.
Mm-hmm.
It's just in the Cradle Will Rock. Everybody Wants Some.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many great songs on these records.
Yep.
But I think I feel really good about my choices for the reasons I've stated.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to stick with them.
There you go. So I'm going to count mine back from 3 to 1. But before I do so, since you think you know me so well, what do you think my top 3 are going to be? Not to put you on the spot or anything, but this will be fun.
Well, let me ask if this one's going to be in there.
You can't ask. You just 3. Just give me the 3 you think are going to be.
I can't ask. What, I got the ass please about the wrestling?
There's
stay behind.
No questions allowed.
No questions allowed.
That's it. You know me. You think you know me this well. What are the 3?
I don't know if I think I know you this well when it comes to Van Halen. Let me just state that.
Okay. I'm just busting your chops anyway.
I think you're going to go. All right. Let me ask this question first. Are you going to go 2 to 1, Sammy?
I'm not telling you.
Oh. Not even give me a hint.
No hints.
Well, you've said that you weigh towards the Sammy era. You've said that.
Yes. Although I will say this, when I did my top 20 Van Halen songs, I think it was weighed 12 to 8 towards Dave.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Some reason I think for unlawful carnal knowledge is going to be one of them.
Okay.
You going to confirm, or are you not going to tell me?
My number 3 choice.
There you go. All right. There we go.
All right. How to make you
feel good, man. Listen, this was not planned.
No,
we did not stage that
when
at all.
When you said it, I'm like, oh, that's pretty freaking funny. Actually, that's to me, I mean, Top of the World is one of my top 10, I think, favorite Van Halen songs. The Dream Is Over. Love that. Love Pound Cake, Judgment Day, Run Around. Great songs. I remember this album. I was really big into Van Halen on this album. Saw him on this tour. Really big fan of this album. There's a lot of great stuff. People always criticize the Sammy years for being very popish, but a song like Pound Cake and Run Around, they're just great rock songs to me. This has Right Now on it, which I like. I don't love Right Now. It's a great, I love the lyrics behind it. I think Sammy did a great job with the lyrics on it. I love the video for it. But there's a lot of great rock songs on this. I love the tour. I knew this was going to be in my top 3 the second we started talking about this. Number 3 for Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. There you have it.
Yeah, and that one I actually had on cassette. And as far as I know, US, there still hasn't been a release on that on vinyl.
I don't think so. I think you're right.
I always kind of check on that.
Yep, I think you're right. So let's see if we can keep the streak alive.
Oh man, the pressure. Right. Wow.
I like putting you under pressure like this. I could see it all over your face.
I know, because
I don't want to get it right. Wrong.
I want to get it right now.
You want to be able to brag. I got your top 3 100% right.
I'm going to go against the grain a little bit on this one. And do I say first Van Halen album?
Is that your final answer?
I think so.
Coming in at number 1, I'll go out of order, would be the first Van Halen album.
All right. All right. At least I got the record. I got the record.
I figured that if I showed my number 2, then it would then you'd know probably the first Van Halen album would be number 1.
I almost thought you were going to go against, the obvious choice there. That was my thinking,
No. You said it before. I have to agree with you. This is where it started. How can you go against this? I mean, this album is pure classic. I said I don't like Little Dreamer. It's not a bad song. It's
no
to Van Halen. It's No Lonely's the Hunter. But I was going to just say, Little Dreamer is to Van Halen what Cold Gin is to Kiss for me. They're both boring songs. They're not bad songs. They're just boring songs. But, Ice Cream Man, On Fire, Jamie's Crying. Right. I mean, Feel You Love Tonight, when we did our thing, I said Feel You Love Tonight is my favorite song on this album. Love the album. It's got to be number one. This is where it started. Everything we were talking about, Dave, before. So I've gone 3, I've gone 1. I'm totally going out of order here now, but since we're playing the game of Guess Mike's Top 3, I figured I should talk about it. Everything about the album cover is cool. It's just the whole thing just is incredible. You know, you said before, Eruption, You Really Got Me. In some ways, Running with the Devil might be my second least favorite song on the album. And when that's the second least favorite song on the album, no, that says a lot. It says how great the album is, you know. So that is my number 1. So
Okay,
now
so
you're
we have
left
that in
guessing.
common.
Yeah, so we have that in common. We both had the same number 1. But now you have to guess my number 2.
And I'm gonna think it's a Sammy record.
It is a Sammy record.
I'm right about that, right?
Yes. So now you have a 3-in-1 shot. Because I'm the one that annoys all the Van Halen fans by picking 2 out of 3 Sammy Hagar albums.
Yeah. I'm looking on my screen here at the records.
Yeah, I figured that. I didn't think you were falling asleep on us.
Yeah. I mean, I would think just the natural choice would be 5150.
Is that your final answer?
I'm going to have to say that just because I think it should be.
But it's not. Balance.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah.
So you got 2 out of 3. So I actually love the Balance album. I think it's the most underrated Van Halen album. Can't Stop Loving You. Don't Tell Me What Love Can Do. Not Enough. 3 of my top 10 favorite Van Halen songs. I happen to think the song Not Enough is perhaps the best rock ballad of all time. All right. That's big, lofty statement, but I think the song is friggin' incredible. Absolutely incredible. I've been listening to it a lot again lately. The last song.
And that's something I have to revisit I have not listened to that record in years.
Yeah. Yeah. No, a lot of people.
So too much I didn't even weigh it in my you know, my disclaimer. It's like I didn't even consider this record. So
yeah, no,
shame on me.
Shame on you is right. The song Don't Tell Me What Love Can Do. I love Sammy's vocal in that. It's a heavier song. You know, all these people that say Van Halen was only pop stuff, go back and listen to this album. I was starting to say before, the last song on this album, Feelin', is incredible. One of Eddie's best solos. I love the whole feel of the song. The Seventh Seal is great. What else is there on here? Helps if I look
Amsterdam,
Big Fat Money. Absolutely all great songs. There's really not a single song on this I could say I don't really like. You know, there's a couple of instrumental things. This is just a killer album. Love it. Heavy. I wish there was more from Van Halen after this. I know they did the song Humans Being, which I also love. I love where Van Halen was going with Sammy, and then it unfortunately all ended. So that is my top 3 for Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, Balance, and Van Halen 1. Saying that, the only albums from, I won't include Gary, and I won't include the reunion album they did, but from the original era, the only albums I really didn't even consider for my top 3, and I know I'm going to really piss off people right now. Here it comes. Women and Children First. Not a big fan of that album. I love in Simple Rhyme, right? Could This Be Magic? The rest of the songs, and The Cradle Will Rock, Everybody Wants Some, they're okay. Never even ran into my mind as a consideration. Dive It Down, absolutely never considered it at all. It's a lot of covers, that's probably my least favorite Van Halen album. And actually, Oh You 812 with Sammy, not a huge fan of that album. I happen to think that the lead single from that, not Mine or Mine, Black and Blue, was probably the worst choice for a Van Halen single of all time. I just don't get what they were thinking of with that. Yeah, When It's Love is good. Finish What You Started is good, but I'm not a fan of that album either. So those albums for me were never in consideration, but I did think about Van Halen 2. I did strongly think about 1984, and I did strongly think about 5150 because they're all to me great albums, but I'm sticking with my top 3 for Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, Balance. Go check that out, fans. If you like Vincent, you haven't listened to it in a long time, there's some great stuff on that. And of course, where it all started, Van Halen 1.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, for me, just, finding out what your top 3 and that balance is in there. And it kind of spurs a memory that you might have mentioned this to me somewhat in recent past, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's another one.
Go ahead.
I don't think that's available on vinyl either. Cause
no,
I like to if I'm going to reintroduce myself to something, I don't like to do it digitally. I want to have the experience of the vinyl thing. But if I have no choice, then this is the way it's going to have to be.
Yeah, so I expect a full report back from you in the next 48 to 72 hours.
Maybe we need to have a comparison, see how well balanced we are.
Oh,
see what I did
see
there?
what you did there. I see what you did there.
One thing I could guarantee you, it's better than Monster. I haven't even listened to it. Let me say, here we go.
Boy, that's
here
a
we
tough
go,
one.
everybody.
That's
here we go.
Tough one.
Put up your twos. Let's get down to it.
I'll get back to you on that one. That's a close one because I think both albums are great. So you're comparing two solid albums with each other.
Anyways,
I left him speechless.
Yeah.
Since it is
disgusted,
not speechless, disgusted. Yeah. Since it is 1 year ago today that Eddie passed, I also just appropriately want to bring up the song "Year to the Day," which is a very unknown Van Halen song. It's on the Gary album. I'm not a huge fan.
What's the name of the Gary album again?
Van Halen 3. That's why I jokingly said you were going to go Van Halen 1, 2, 3, but I knew you would.
That's right.
If you went Van Halen 3 in your top 3, I would have been stunned. But the Gary album, there's a lot of misses. The band was very Eddie was going in a different direction with his songwriting. It doesn't have a full Van Halen sound to me. But go back and check out that song, "Year to the Day." It's an incredible song, incredible vocal by Gary. It has a little bit of a Sammy feel to it, but it's an emotional song. It's a great song. It's long. I think it's like 7 or 8 minutes long. It's a bit epic. Dare I call it like the Stairway to Heaven, musically like that. But really a song no Van Halen fans really talk about at all because it's on that album. Check it out. You'll be glad you did. It's you're never going to mistake it for Dance the Night Away or Beautiful Girls. It's nothing at all like that, but it's really good musically. It's a great vocal. I just wanted to give that song a shout out.
Cool. I'll check that one out too.
Yeah. So, all righty. I think on that note, we covered pretty much all things Van Halen in this conversation. I will be curious to see what other people think their top 3 Van Halen albums are. It's okay to disagree with me. It's okay to put all 3 of yours being Dave, which neither one of us did. I actually thought you might, but neither one of us did. That's okay. It's okay to hate Sammy. It's okay to prefer Sammy. All those opinions are valid. It's even okay to say you like Gary, right? I think Gary, those concerts they did with Gary were incredible. If you haven't seen them, check them out on YouTube.
I've seen some clips of that.
Yeah, they did some great set lists during that time.
And he sounded great. doing the Van Halen stuff too.
Yeah, he really was the perfect choice to cover both the Dave songs and the Sammy songs. He really was the perfect choice. It was just not the right time. It was coming off the whole grunge thing. And, they did an album that was a bit different sounding for Van Halen than what people were used to. So I can't pin that all on Gary. I don't think that's fair. But anyway, I'm curious to see what other people think of their top 3. Let us know what you think about Dave and his retirement announcement. Do we think that this is really the end for him in terms of touring and playing shows? Did you read into it like I did that maybe he's not feeling well? I'm really curious. And again, it's been a year today since Eddie has passed.
Can't believe it.
It's kind of crazy to think about it. A year ago today, you and I did a chat to remember, like a tribute to Eddie. And for the last few months, I've been kind of going back and revisiting some of the Van Halen catalog. Not because he passed, just because I wanted to put together my top 20 list, and I was really like kind of going through the songs again. And it just made me really appreciate and be thankful for what he has left behind, because, Wolf said it best. He drives him crazy when people pin Dave versus Sam. He's like, at the end of the day, that was my dad writing all those songs, so stop pinning A against B. Those are my dad's songs. And, when he said that, I'm like, good point, Wolf. Yeah. And I love Wolf's personality, and he seems to be so like level-headed for somebody has put up with a lot of crap the last year, quite honestly, since his father passed away. And so I know it's a little, I went down a road here a little bit, but it was just some things I thought of as well. So again, let us know your top 3 Van Halen albums. Let us know what you think if Dave is really going to retire. And I think that's a wrap for this episode, my friend.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely.
All right. Well, on that note, thanks everybody for watching. We're out of here. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
Later.
Later.
Alrighty, there you have it. I'd like to thank everybody for taking some time out to watch or to listen to us talk all about Van Halen on the 1-year anniversary of Eddie Van Halen's passing. We'd love to hear your thoughts and your comments on what your top 3 Van Halen albums are, as well as what you think about David Lee Roth announcing his retirement. Once more, thanks for watching and thanks for listening. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. You should also follow me on Instagram and Twitter as well. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you all next time.